হ্যালো ডিয়ার স্টুডেন্ট, আজকে আমরা আলোচনা করব কল্যাণী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের অন্তর্গত বিএ থার্ড সেমিস্টার ইংলিশ মেজর পেপার থেকে যে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ টেক্সটটি আছে লাইন বাই লাইন আলোচনা করব এবং ওয়ার্ড মিনিং ধীরে ধীরে আলোচনা করব তোমাদের বোঝার সুবিধার্থে। চ্যাপ্টার নাম এ জার্নাল অফ 48 আওয়ার্স অফ দ্য ইয়ার 1945 দ্যাট ওয়াজ রিটেন বাই কৈলাস চন্দ্র দত্ত। এই চ্যাপ্টারের যে প্রিভিয়াস ক্লাসগুলি অনলাইন লাইভ ক্লাসগুলো আলোচনা করা আছে সেগুলো কিন্তু ইতিমধ্যে আমার চ্যানেলে আপলোড করা আছে। যারা এখনো পর্যন্ত ওই ক্লাসগুলো তোমরা দেখোনি অবশ্যই তোমরা দেখে নেবে। দেরি না করে ডিয়ার স্টুডেন্ট ভিডিওটা শুরু করা যাক।
To this great alarm, they beheld a body of horsemen, the bodyguards of the viceroy, stationed at Baligon, amounting to about 600 men approaching to relieve the garrison. The horsemen charged furiously. Another terrible fire was opened from the government house. Actually, to their great alarm, the British people wanted to give the warning to the Indian rebellious soldiers. They returned a body of horsemen, many kinds of the horsemen who was prepared to ride on the horseback against the Indian populace. The bodyguards means who was protecting of the viceroy, of the British government. You know Lieutenant Martin about the name of the viceroy of the British government. The bodyguard of the viceroy, the protector of the viceroy, stationed at Baliganj. Lieutenant Martin and the viceroy had taken his positions at Baliganj station, amounting, that means Lieutenant Martin had been gathered about 600 men approaching, 600 British soldiers approaching, means appearing to relieve the garrison. To relieve the garrison. What is meant by the word garrison? The word garrison represents deliver the soldiers. Deliver the soldiers. The horsemen, actually all kind of the British soldiers, had wanted to relieve. For this reason, 600 common persons had been gathered there. The horsemen charged furiously, and another terrible fire was opened from the government house. That means from the British government house, terrible fire had been thrown against the Indian populace to stop their protestant, in which were placed a body of infantry, in which were placed means kept a body of infantry. What is meant by the word infantry? The word infantry means foot soldiers who was prepared to fight in the battlefield to walk on. That is called as the infantry. In the meantime, Bhuvan Mohan, perceiving to his great mortification the inevitable consequence of this rash engagement. In the meantime, Bhuvan Mohan, perceiving to this great mortification the inevitable consequence of this rash engagement. What is meant by the word perceiving? Perceiving means grasp. মানে ভুবন মোহন দৃঢ় মুষ্টিতে ধরে রেখেছিল। To this great mortification, এই মোহন, what is meant by the word mortification? Mortification means moderation. ক্ষোভ। mortification কথার অর্থ হচ্ছে ক্ষোভ। তাহলে ভুবন মোহন পারসিভিং টু হিজ গ্রেট মর্টিফিকেশন, মোহন মানে ব্যাপক ক্ষোভ জমায়েত হয়েছিল ভুবন মোহনের মধ্যে। দ্য ইনভাইটেবল, অপরিহার্যভাবে, কনসিকুয়েন্সেস অফ দিস র্যাশ এনগেজমেন্ট, এই ভয়াবহ পরিস্থিতির মধ্যে ফট উইথ ডেসপারেশন, ফট লড়াই করেছিল ভুবন মোহন হতাশার সাথে। মোস্ট অফ হিজ ফলোয়ার্স ওয়্যার কিল্ড, এমনকি ভুবন মোহনের সাথে যারা অনেক সঙ্গী ছিল তাদের অনেক সঙ্গীকে হত্যা করে ফেলেছিল ব্রিটিশরা। and himself would have met with the same fate, তারপরেও তিনি ভাগ্যের দোহাই দিয়ে একাই লড়াই করতে প্রস্তুত হয়েছিলেন। but for the successful exertions of a cool and resolute company of soldiers. Exertions, what is meant by the word exertion? The word exertion means enthusiasm. He himself would have met with the same fate. Actually, or the basically, Bhuvan Mohan fought himself against the British officers and soldiers based on his destiny. But for the successful exertion means enthusiasm of a cool and resolute company of soldiers. What is meant by the word resolute. Resolute means firm, with certain power, who poured a heavy fire of carabines wherever they advanced. The word carabine represents gun or the rifle. Wherever they advanced, extricating himself from this present difficult. Basically, the British soldiers had gathered different types of guns and rifles, and the British officer had provided the different types of carabine to their soldiers, but not more than had existed in the hand of the Bhuvan Mohan. He began to rally his forces that were scattered in every direction. An officer hastily rode up to him and met him face to face. Actually, with the terrible fire, by the causes of the terrible fire of the British people, all Indian followers or all rebellious people who were the followers of Sir Bhuvan Mohan had fought himself alone. Other followers had scattered in different way. Scattered means stretched out or the expanded in different ways with for the causes of British officers firing. And at last, an officer hastily means quickly, rode up to him and met him face to face. And a British officer had come in front of Sir Bhuvan Mohan. He had stood face to face of Bhuvan Mohan without any other introductions than that of the friend of Lieutenant Martin. He attacked Bhuvan Mohan with the greatest fury. Actually, without any other introduction than that of the friend of Lieutenant Martin, he attacked Bhuvan Mohan with the greatest fire. Actually, any compromising introduction means any compromising. A British officer, Bhuvan Mohan, was one kind of the friend of Lieutenant Martin. Who is the British officer's friend? Lieutenant Martin. He attacked Bhuvan Mohan with the greatest fury. Actually, Bhuvan Mohan had been attacked by the hand of the British soldiers, British officers. What is meant by the word fury? Fury means religiously or the frenzy, fierceness, মানে পাগলের মতো ভুবন মোহনকে আক্রমণ করলো। But light of foot and quick of eye, the latter leaped aside, eluded a blow which would have proved fatal had it taken effect. Latter lift means arise up aside and eluded a blow which would have proven fatal had it taken. Exchanging, eluded means এখানে দেয়া আছে ওয়ার্ড নোটস গুলো দেখে নেবে। Eluded means ran away to forward. Basically, light of foot and quick of eye, the latter leaped aside the eluded a blow which would have proved fatal had it taken effect. Basically, Bhuvan Mohan was terribly attacked. Just for this reason, fatal means serious. Seriously, Bhuvan Mohan had compelled to backwarded by the injustice, torture, inhuman torture of the British soldiers of the British. Exchanging many smart cuts and desperate blows, they rushed towards each other and grasping one another clothes, they furiously grappled together like two desperate gladiators. Actually, exchanging many smart cuts and desperate blow. Exchanging many smart cuts and desperate blow. Desperate means frustrated blows. All kind of the British soldiers rushed towards each other and grasping one another clothes. The British soldiers cut the garment of Indian rebellious soldiers. They furiously grappled together. What is meant by the word grapple? The word grapple represents wrapped. They furiously, তারা মারাত্মকভাবে একে অপরকে মানে আঁকড়ে ধরে বাঁচার চেষ্টা করেছিল, লাইক টু ডেসপারেট গ্ল্যাডিয়েটর্স, মানে সেই দুই হতাশাজনক গ্ল্যাডিয়েটর্সের মতো। হোয়াট ইজ মিন বাই দ্য ওয়ার্ড গ্ল্যাডিয়েটর্স? না, এ পারসন এনগেজ ইন এ ফাইট টু দ্য ডেথ ফর পাবলিক এন্টারটেনমেন্ট। অ্যাকচুয়ালি মৃত্যু পর্যন্ত একজন সৈনিক যখন যুদ্ধ করে তাকে গ্ল্যাডিয়েটর্স বলা হয়। সেই হতাশাজনক গ্ল্যাডিয়েটর্সদের মতো, হতাশাজনক সৈনিকের মতো তারা একে অপরকে জড়িয়ে ধরেছিল, আলিঙ্গনবদ্ধ করেছিল। they furiously grappled. The contest continued for several minutes, during which time their deadly clubs was not loosened, and at last, as if actuated by a demon, they both let go their hold, and foaming with ire and flourished their weapons, made a terrible pass. The sword of the officers grazed the ribs of the Bhuvan Mohan. Actually, the British people was tremendously tortured. The contest continued for several minutes, during which time their deadly clubs was not loosened. Their deadly clubs. Actually, clubs means the quantity of the dead persons was not to be stopped by the hands of the British soldiers. And at last, as if actuated by demon, what is called demon? The word demon represents to the Lieutenant Martin by the making of the plan of Lieutenant Martin, all kind or most of the Indian populace or the rebellious persons had been died, had been passed away, had been brutally slaughtered, and foaming with fire. Foaming means expanding or the stretching all in the battlefield with ire. What is meant by the word ire? The word ire represents anger. Ire represents anger. Flourished their weapons, and made a terrible pass. What is meant by the word flourished? The word flourished represents emerged, nimojjito kora. Their weapons made a terrible pass. The sword of the officer grazed the ribs of Bhuvan Mohan. Actually, a young officer and young British officer sword grazed means blew the ribs of Bhuvan Mohan. মানে একটা অস্ত্র বা তরোয়াল দিয়ে একজন ইয়াং অফিসার ভুবন মোহনের পাঁজরটাকে ভেঙে দিয়েছিল। while that out of redoubted hero first right through his opponent's heart. While that of our redoubted hero, মানে as a not doubting any kind of a special hero, that means the name of Bhuvan Mohan, who was rapidly wounded by a young officer's sword. The gigantic Englishman fell prostrated on the ground with a groan that marked his instant dissolution. The gigantic, what is meant by the word gigantic? What is meant by the word gigantic? The word gigantic represents demonic or the monstrous. Englishman fell prostrated. What is meant by the word prostrated? The word prostrated represents lying down, prostrate, lying down on the ground with a groan that marked his instant dissolution. What is meant by the word dissolution? The word dissolution represents separations. Here this sentence, the monstrous Englishman fell prostrated lying down on the ground with a groan, with a great shouting that terribly marked out the separations. Taking a minute rest after so warm a contest, Bhuvan Mohan began to rally round him his scattered troops. Bhuvan Mohan started to rally round him his scattered troops. Scattered means expanding soldiers, and signified his intention of consulting with his officer, some of whom formed a circle round him while he was in this situation. The drawbridges were unexpectedly lowered, the garrison sailed out, and a savary action commenced in which the patriot and his men displayed the most determined valor. Actually, afterwards, the gigantic English fell prostrate on the ground with a groan that marked his instant dissolution. Taking a minute rest after so warm a contest, Bhuvan Mohan began to rally round with scattered troops. Actually, repeatedly, Bhuvan Mohan had also started to protest against the gigantic against the monstrous Englishman, and against the monstrous Englishman had surrounded by Bhuvan Mohan and others who were living as the Indian rebellious soldiers. They had surrounded to the monstrous Englishman, and Bhuvan Mohan had started to see the light of victory, the light of bravery. The scene became still more horrible. But after some situations, after some scenery had been happened there, the mode had been changed, which the light of hope had been reflected into the mind of Sir Bhuvan Mohan. That had been changed. On one side, the patriots were charged by bayonets. On other, they were attacked by the bodyguard. While from a third, the artillery made a lamentable havoc. Actually, bayonets, what is meant by the word bayonets? The word bayonets represents, a bayonet is a knife attached to the end of a rifle. One kind of the bayonet means the rifle. One side the patriots were charged.
ডিয়ার স্টুডেন্ট, ভিডিওটা এখানেই শেষ করছি। আবার দেখাবে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ টপিকস নিয়ে। হ্যাঁ ডিয়ার স্টুডেন্ট, একটা কথা বলে রাখি, যারা থার্ড সেমিস্টার ইংলিশ মেজর পেপারের পেড পিডিএফ কোর্স সংগ্রহ করতে ইচ্ছুক, উইথ সাজেশন 2 মার্কস, 5 মার্কস এবং 10 মার্কসের টোটাল সাজেশন রেডি আছে উত্তর সমেত, যারা সংগ্রহ করতে আগ্রহী তারা অবশ্যই যোগাযোগ করতে পারে। নিচে ডেসক্রিপশন বক্সে যে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বারটি দেওয়া আছে 8514897926, এই নাম্বারে তোমরা কমিউনিকেট করতে পারো। আবার দেখাবে এই ধরনের ইনফরমেটিভ তথ্য নিয়ে।